The next step is going to be sanding the surround with 320 grit sandpaper with a foam pad for even touch. Just going to grit into it to prep it for primer. But after the 320 sanding, I'm going to put a 70-30 mix of automotive degreaser on everything except for the chrome on the emblem. And I'm quickly going to water and brush water it off so that every bit of coarser sanding residue and dirt and grime stuck in all of the nooks and crannies of this grill are completely removed before any of the finer sanding and sprays are done. I'm also going to sand those two little pieces that we took off prior to installing them so that there's no unnecessary pressure on the body filler that's going to hold them in place. Now you likely can't see it, but there is silver paint on the honeycombs from the careless body shop or whoever painted it themselves before. So there's going to be lots of rounds of taping. I'm going to show you more specific taping, especially with electrical tape. I refinished rotor wheels for an A3 TDI once, and those sharp edges with the different paint colors required very careful use of electrical tape to get around the edges. So we're going to have to do that with the emblem because I decided to try taking it out once more, and I did break one tab, and I said that's enough. It's going to be a lot of taping, but you got to be ready for this kind of stuff if you're not trying to search for new grills. For the plate filler, it will be slightly different. I'm going to do those outside smooth surrounds with 320 grit, and the inside where the fiberglass cloths and the body filler are going to go, I'm probably going to lay it down on 120 or 180 really coarse because it's going to get body fillered. We'll get to that part later, but this is also going to get a light automotive degreasing after it's 320 and 120 or 180. And once it's cleaned, I will be back to you. So you have the grades of sandpaper I'm going to use. Honestly, I'll do more in-depth body stuff once the channel grows and I have somebody to help me with filming, but it's really hard to have your hands occupied with body shop materials and film at the same time. I will zoom in. This is definitely not for beginners, okay? There's a lot of contours and edges. If you sand too hard or you don't have experience, you can really change the shape of that surround on the outside or any of the small curved edges on the plastic for the plate filler section. More concerned with the outsides of the surround. So you can see here, this is all it took. It took 2 sheets of 320 for the aluminum or metal covered plastic grill surround, and 180, just one sheet. I was able to do the whole thing here. Sorry, when I say 180, I mean I did 180 on where the license plate used to go, okay? And the most important part was getting those edges with the 180 because that's going to help it catch. This section on both sides was done with 320. That white section there on the side, I think that was some kind of oversprayed paint because I'm not digging into that plastic any more than that. So it wasn't buffing compound. On this side, the 320 looks a lot better. I'm going to try to zoom. Yeah, there you go. You can see I'm going to spot putty this a little bit before I prime it, just because there are scratches from all the years the car has been used. Now, the two little pieces I forgot, I got to do those, but if you go too far with your sanding, you're going to run into issues of busting through that aluminum, whatever metal it is, very thin layer into the plastic. So you can see my edges, some of them are a bit shinier, but trust me when I tell you, they still have all of the factory contours. That takes a sander's touch, okay, to be able to do a piece like this well. So practice on something else if you're only beginning, because this is a more intricate car to work on. So I'm going to 320 grit these pieces here, okay, and then I'm gonna do the wash, the degreaser wash that I told you. One key to sanding this kind of stuff is always have a vacuum cleaner. As you keep going, you want to vacuum up all of the dust, sanding dust, both out of the sandpaper. It'll make it live a bit longer, and off the surface, because you're going to push that dust back in. So these two pieces, I wanted to go 320, but I had to hit them with 180 because some of the stuff wasn't chipping off, and they're full of cracks and breaks, so I had to be careful. No pad, but I did keep all of the OE contours. So for example, on the grill, it's going to fill up with dust quick. You got to have a vacuum beside you to continuously clean as you go. I used a brush on the two pieces with degreaser, and I rinsed also with the brush. You want to make sure to get all the degreaser out of every nook and cranny so that your body filler goes well. I also washed my foam pad there so we can reuse it and not get contaminants into our next stages. The same goes for the plate filler, degreased and washed, rinsed with the brush as well. And the most important part here is to really rinse a lot, because a degreaser can go into your sandpaper gridded surfaces, and that's the last thing you want for a project like this. So this is a standard basement sink tub, and the grill sits in there very nice. I'm gonna try to keep those OE stickers at the top. I don't know why I went crazy about not getting a light mix of degreaser on the chrome. Wheels have chrome on them, and automotive degreaser works fine on those. So I just doused this in some light concentration degreaser. I'm gonna hit it with the brush, make sure everything is clean, and then spend a long time with the brush and water getting all of the degreaser out of every nook and cranny before we move on to the next stage. If you brush properly and for a long time, it is gonna spew water in different places and on the floor, so have some towels ready to clean up. So there's a degreaser in the gloves that I used. Even in poor lighting, look at how good it looks degreased and rinsed with a brush before we do anything. So now I'm going to tilt that on different angles because there's lots of nooks and crannies full of water. Just shake it around, you'll see yourself how much water comes out of different places. And you just have to let it dry on different angles until it's completely dry to go on to the next step. And there's a plate filler and that poor lighting in the center of your screen. Let's go over some of the items to be used, and stay tuned for the next part because I'm going to tell you some very important things about DIY painting in your garage. Is your air settings, which is going to make the difference between a good finish and a terrible finish. So on the right there is my Ava Silver non-reduced paint. You want to add reducer to it. This is the painter's touch, how much reducer you add or don't add. If you're nice to the body shop supplier, they will reduce it for you at the beginning inside the can for a beginner's ratios. I'm going to be shooting the paint through a 1.3 nozzle and just clean everything with acetone between your clear coat and your paint. Some people say about rubber seals, I've never had an issue. Shooting through guns is precise stuff, okay? 1.3, 1.4, 1.7 millimeter. There's differences. If you're shooting your primer through the gun, I'm not going to be shooting the primer through my gun. So get your settings for your gun right. Here are our two pieces nice and cleaned up. So this is going to take a while, but first I have to mend the crack on this one. So I'm just going to be creative with it. Most of the body filler is going to be going inside those rails and in between on the final install. The key to getting a nice finish is actually the Dremel cuts, because what they have done is they've opened small gaps of space with the material that the Dremel cut has removed for the filler to take place and for us to reshape. I looked at the plastics underneath, and even though they're a bit mangled, I'm not going to touch that, and we should be fine putting these back. So once I get the filler of choice inside, so fix a little piece, then mend them to the grill. I'm going to use 320 to smooth it to the contours, and then we'll go on to the priming stage, 320 grit. So do we use Evercoat or Bondo with our fiberglass things? I'm actually going to try something different here. That is technically a metal to metal body filler, but these are all just body fillers. Everyone knows they don't have a very good reputation. But here's the thing. Bondo is more easily sandable and workable. This Evercoat stuff is really strong, but it doesn't sand as well. It likes to chip. I had primarily bought these for the AMG Rim Restore, which, man, like, I'm packed for space in here. Because as you guys know, I recently brought this gem of a tricycle in here. So getting back on topic, which one are we going to use? I'm most likely going to use that Evercoat stuff definitely for the two small pieces. And it'll take a lot longer to sand it, but that's the nature of it. So fortunately, Audi does have that metal, very thin surface on the plastic pieces. Now here's the interesting part about the plastic pieces. Plastic with that metal pieces on it. I tried magnets on the grille surround, and it has just a hair of magnet adherence. So that kind of goes to show that the metal is something that has some magnetic properties through that paint they put on it, but I don't know. Okay, so that's still a bit of a mystery. Now, unfortunately, that can of primer is a professional product that is not for sale to the public. I don't want my body shop supplier to cut me off by putting that out to the public. But if you do go to a body shop supplier and you are buying, I don't know, 500,000 bucks worth of stuff from them, they should, when you tell them, look, give me the good stuff, they'll tell you what it is. So sorry about that. The Bessa Clear Coat is for sale to public. I've seen it on a lot of different sites. It's worked decently well for me, this product. It's not the highest end stuff, but it's a two-part clear coat, so I just mix it in a cup. So you see on the shelf, right in the center of the screen there's that little cup there. That is my cup for mixing clear coat before I pour it into this piece, which clearly you can see I did not clean the top of the cap very well. But the plastic stuff does stain. I mean, trust me, there is no blue paint left in that at all. The acetone does not wear this plastic down. But again, controversial stuff, so do your own research. Do what you like. You're going to want a whole bunch of paint strainers, okay? You don't want clogs, so there's that. Before I get ahead of myself, all of these body fillers, paints, reducers, clear coats are stored in the basement or inside the house, okay? You do not store these in winter temperatures ever, okay? Because things can happen with chemicals. So room temperature, always. These are stored in the basement for me. I decided against using the piece of plastic on the plate filler. We are just going to use the fiberglass cloths with the Evercoat metal to metal and see how that does. With the amount of filler that it requires, I'm almost sure that the Bondo will crack even though I don't use it in the winter this car. So it'll be a sanding extravaganza for me with the Evercoat stuff, but we'll see how it does. When it comes to sanding the filler, I'm just going to use my foam pad. You just got to have a body man's touch when you're doing it. The small pieces for here, it's going to be some foam pad with the 320 grit, but it's mostly going to be a fingering affair to get that sanded to the correct surface with the contours. So body worker's touch. Acetone is used in all kinds of applications and body work so that the surfaces you're working with are very clear. Just be careful not to put it on, I don't know if you'd be crazy enough to put it on your chrome surfaces, but just be careful with it, but don't be shy with it if there's a place where you need to use the acetone, especially in cleaning your gun if you're going to take breaks. So we'll get more into air settings and all kinds of stuff in the next series. So for now, everything's almost dried out, so I'm going to get to work with a lot of my bondoing. And again, once the channel grows and I can afford to have a film person, these parts of the project will be filmed in detail to help you guys with body work.